This is Michael Woodward, and this is episode 85 of the Jumblethink podcast.
T-minus 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Welcome to the Jumblethink podcast, a podcast focused on telling the stories of dreamers, makers, innovators, influencers. Along the way, we give you some tips and ideas of how you can chase your own big idea and dream and create the world you want to live in. Our guest for today's episode is Tommy Breedlove. More about Tommy in a moment. On Thursday's episode, our guest is Dave Cornell. He is a speaker, a coach, and a trainer. For 30 years, he worked in corporate America, specializing in sales, management, training, and development. When the recession hit, everything changed. He had to face his fears and begin to learn how to be courageous. He now specializes in helping others learn the craft of courage, face their fears, and reach their unreachable goals. In the episode, Dave shares some great principles and really helps encourage us to think differently, approach our problems in new ways, and step into the life of our dreams. Make sure to tune in to Thursday's episode with speaker, coach, and trainer Dave Cornell. Today's episode is brought to you by FreshBooks.com, a super cool tool for business owners that really need to manage their invoicing and accounting. You can get a free 30-day trial at www.gofreshbooks.com/jumblethink. Now let's tune into today's episode with Tommy Breedlove. Hey there, welcome to the Jumblethink podcast. My name is Michael Woodward. I am your host, and our guest today is Tommy Breedlove, the founder of Choose Goodness. You can check them out at choosegoodnessnow.com. Tommy spent over 20 years serving companies as a CPA and financial consultant. He's on the board of advisors, the chair and/or director for multiple for-profit and civic entities. His company focuses on helping executives and entrepreneurs going beyond the financial bottom line. He believes one of the keys is creating loyal customer base and promoting goodwill within your community. Tommy has a new book coming out. It's called From Pawn to King. It's super exciting. We talk about the principles of that book along with so many other topics, including failure and success and why you shouldn't buy into the idea of it's not personal, it's business. One of my favorite parts of the episode is when Tommy shares about how you should reconnect with your passion to help your organization or your business achieve greatness. Let's jump into today's interview with our guest, Tommy Breedlove. Tommy, thanks so much for taking time out to be on the podcast and share some great wisdom with our audience.
Awesome. I hope I have some wisdom to give today. We'll make that the goal. So it's a pleasure to be here, and I've really enjoyed talking to you offline.
How's your day going so far, by the way?
My day is going brilliant. I've had a rough couple of weeks with family stuff and tragedies. You know, life kind of gets in our way sometimes, especially with our older family members. Yeah. And so I just got back late last night from my second funeral in 3 weeks.
Wow.
But woke up this morning and the sun is bright here. It's about 65 to 70 degrees. It's beautiful outside and catching up on work. So happy to do this conversation. So life is good for me. I woke up today. I'm breathing. I'm happy. And so, yeah, I'm doing amazing.
You have an interesting past. A lot of people find their path to entrepreneurship in different ways and in different seasons of life. Now, you have a career before you ever ventured out to do your own adventure. Tell us a little bit about that process of going from being an employee and working for different places, being a CPA and a financial consultant, and then kind of pioneering your own new thing.
Absolutely. And so it started for me in my senior year of high school. I had never considered, I come from humble beginnings from the south side of Atlanta. Most of the people from my neighborhood went to trade school, the military, or jail, believe it or not. And
Wow.
So what's interesting about that is, and I'm the first one to graduate from college in my family, but I for some reason decided as an optional course to take marketing in a senior year.
Okay.
And I loved my professor, or I guess it was a teacher back then, and loved just business. And so I knew I wanted to do business for a living, but didn't know what that meant. I just loved all things about marketing, sales, operations, business, and knew that was my calling. So it first started with me in 18. And then I got, believe it or not, I was running with the wrong crowd and doing the wrong things and kind of following in some people's footsteps. And I got in a boatload of trouble when I was 18, and it was life-changing trouble.
Wow.
And so I was like, oh my God, I'm going to be one of those guys that end up in jail. And guess what? I did. And so by the grace of God and some other things, it scared me straight. And so for lack of a better word, when I got out of jail, I worked in a factory during the day as a machine operator, went to school at night, and was just ready to do anything but that. and so I ended up, there's other parts of the story, but by the grace of God and some luck and some really, ambition, I ended up at the University of Georgia, and I went from jail to a large financial consulting company called Deloitte in 3 years.
Wow.
And so from there, fast forward a lot of years after that, and I was 36 years old, and I was a junior partner at this financial firm in the Southeast United States. However, it did have an international practice. And so I had achieved what we call professional success. I had the office at the top of the ivory tower, the big watch, the nice car, making good money, prestige, title, blah, 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 all that useless nonsense. But what I did is I turned around, and yes, I had achieved financial success and a title principal within this firm, so the big office. But I looked around, I was completely unfulfilled, lost meaning in my life. I was compromising all my values. My marriage was crumbling. So on the outside, I looked like this successful businessman. But on the inside, I was truly crumbling. Wow. And I'm getting to the entrepreneur part. So it's all part of the story, though.
Yeah.
So forgive me. They're like, why is this dude vomiting his life on us? Because it's all part of the story.
Yeah.
And so I went on this incredible journey of discovery from working on my mental state, my emotional state, my physical state, and my spiritual state. That doesn't mean religion, just really wanting to find who I was in life. And I did this while I was still at that firm. And I went from being the guy, back then I was working 80, 90 hours a week, and the who turns the lights off last wins. And I was probably the most disliked person at that particular firm at the time. But I went in less than 2 years, I went from being the most disliked person and working 90 hours a week to literally working 35 to 40 hours a week to the most beloved person. I built this amazing team. I was living my truth and my value systems. I was treating people the way I wanted to treat it, both internally, externally, clients. And the most amazing thing happened. I went from principal junior partner to senior partner to international practice leader to elected to the board of directors of this very large financial institution at 39 years old. Wow. So within 3 years, just by changing my life, my mindset, my beliefs, coming from an abundance mindset as opposed to scarcity mindset, I had achieved even more success, but did it all in the right ways. And I was like, wow, I wish I'd have known that a whole lot more. But the most amazing thing happened to me. I knew in my first board meeting, I knew I had to leave. And I knew I wanted to, because it wasn't that they were bad people. It was just they were very different from a value systems and how I wanted to live my life and the business that I wanted to run. Right. So through a huge leap and a whole lot of support from my family, my friends, my mentors, coaches, I took this huge leap into entrepreneurship and decided to go into financial consulting on my own, start my own, hang up my own shingle, leave these huge firms. And I was going through all this fear mindset when I was doing that. Oh my God, I'm going to live under my bridge. I'm at the top of the game. I've got all this title and stuff, staff. What will people think? Will they think I'm crazy? I'm going to live under a bridge. So it was fear and insecurity. I was still dealing, even after all this self-work I've done, I'm still dealing with the fears and insecurities and not good enough. So can I do this on my own? And so I started my own company. And at that time, it was still financial consulting, but it was more about blending humanity with profitability and helping these large companies do better, both internally and externally, which will result in higher profitability. And I loved it. But during that process, what I had this calling, for lack of a better word, or what came to me is all these executive men, these powerful guys who wear all these different masks, who have big responsibilities, were like, hey, man, I know you went through this process. You're happy. You're living a life of abundance. How do I get more of that? So over the past 3 years, I've transitioned from the financial consultant and helping people make more money in the right way to more individual mentoring, executive coaching, leadership development, and just helping these guys live their highest meaning in life, but they don't have to compromise their financial success or the prestige, but they can, achieve significance and meaning in their life. They can build a legacy, and they can do it all the right ways. So that's a really long-winded way of saying I did it. I went from the reason I knew I had this career that was successful, but I knew there was something bigger and better, and I knew I needed to do it my way. And that's not to say I didn't go through all these incredible fears and insecurities when I jumped into entrepreneurship. But as long as I lived my truth and stayed in my zone of brilliance, and what I call that is, we all have God-given talents, and using those talents to not only serve myself, but the individuals and companies that I want to serve. It's just been this unbelievable, amazing ride into, hey, I can do this. And not only can I do this, I can show other people what I did. And so that's my trail into entrepreneurship. So thank you for allowing me to go through that story. But, now I've got my hands in so many different things. We've invested into certain startups. So I sit on for-profit boards. We've got a real estate company. We've got an investing company. We've got the Choose Goodness movement, which is something bigger than all of that. And then my business mentoring and executive coaching practice as well. So I've got my hands on a lot of it. Once you get the entrepreneur bug, it doesn't come out of you. And so now I've got it on steroids. So that's a little bit about my story, Michael.
There is so many different little things that we could dive into based on the story you were telling, your story. So let's back up a little bit and start with, you talked about scarcity versus an abundance mindset. And I think that's being tossed around a lot lately in the last 3 years. When you say that, when you shifted from a scarcity to an abundance mindset, what does that mean?
For me, it meant this. And it goes back to my childhood, and I'm not going to go into all of that, but it's about a set of core beliefs that you have way down inside.
Okay. At
the human being level, for me, and for most of the people that I don't want to speak for the world, but for me, it meant regardless of what happened to me externally, I could work hard, I could be ambitious, and not want to go back into the behaviors that I used to be. But there was always this driving force underneath that as, am I good enough? Okay. If I really put myself out there, will people dig it? What will they think? Will they think I'm crazy? Will they like me? Will they make fun of me? Will they judge me? And so it's not only about, am I good enough? Are they going to see me? Are they going to love me? The scarcity mindset to me is living your life based on what other people think and the judgments and opinions of others, and letting the noise of social media, our media, our news, that fear-based, I'm going to scare you to death to where you want to hide under your table and wait for the North Koreans to bomb us or all this other crazy stuff to happen.
Yeah.
It's a fear-based, not good enough, putting power into other people's hands. And it manifests itself in our personal relationships, our friendships, our professional relationships, because we all think that business and personal are something different. That's the biggest lie we tell in society.
Oh, I agree with that.
It's all one big stew.
Yeah.
Wherever you go, there you are. And when I finally realized enough is enough, I'm not going to be scared of judgment and what other people think. I'm going to walk out of the door, and this is a metaphor. I'm going to walk out of the door naked, and hopefully people will dig it, and they will dig my message and what I stand for and my expertise. And I'm just going to live my truth to the best of my ability. And once I changed my mindset from that fear and insecurity and not good enoughs to believing that, hey, you've got this. And it takes a long time and a lot of work to do this. This is not a light switch. There's no pill. There's no easy solution. And I work on it, no kidding, Michael, 1 to 2 hours a day before I can go serve my family and my clients. And so I constantly am sharpening the pencil to that. Abundance to me is living your truth.
Yeah.
It's about living your value systems. And we formed this movement called Choose Goodness.
Okay.
And it's about the power of clear, courageous, and constant choice. Conscious. That means you're aware of the choices you make. Mm-hmm. And if you can choose to have courage, and you can choose to be, if you're self-aware in the choices, and we make hundreds of choices per day, And goodness means something to everybody. And my goodness basically means as long as I'm living my value systems and not hurting someone else, that's a goodness. And so if you can make conscious and courageous goodness-based choices 9 out of 10 times, and no one's perfect, the level of abundance, and that means like attracts like. I know that's a little foo-foo and woo-woo and out there, especially coming from a financial guy.
Yeah.
But I'm not kidding. It's when the people that'll come around in your life, the friendships that you'll make, the relationships that you'll make, the business stuff that happens for you, when you shift that, oh my God, I'm scared, or I'm not going to make this big leap into entrepreneurship because of money and fear and obligations and all this other noise that we have. If you can shift that and truly believe, and there's tools behind the belief that you can do it, and life or the universe or whatever you want to say will reward you. Once you can make that shift, your whole world changes. And so that's really what I think scarcity versus abundance is.
You talk about like finding this deep place of honesty with yourself. You talk about how then, you need to open the door and the metaphor that you put out was walk out naked and offer yourself with honesty to the world. That's a really difficult thing to do. And I think it's difficult on two fronts. It's difficult because it's hard to be honest with yourself when you start digging deep sometimes. And then it's also scary to offer that to the world. What are some steps that people can start taking to maybe start that journey? Maybe they're looking at their life right now and they're saying, I hear what Tommy's saying, and I feel like I'm living this falseness in my life. I feel like I'm living a divided life where I've got my self life, I've got my family life, I've got my work life, and they're not cohesive and they don't feel honest. What are some steps people can start taking to ask the right questions, to open up the truth, to go deep in that, to go and really go on a discovery of themselves, but also a discovery of how to interface that new mindset in the world?
Absolutely. And great question, by the way.
Thanks.
And the truth of the matter is it's really not an easy process. And for your listeners, you're not alone. Most people are struggling in some aspect of their life, whether it's financial, personal, relationships. And usually if one's struggling, they're all kind of struggling, again, because this human thing that we have to live is one big stew. And so one thing kind of affects everything else. But I'm here to tell you that if I can do it, and I'm not being self-deprecating here, anybody can do it.
Yeah.
But I constantly work at it. So it's not easy. There's no magic pill. If you feel unfulfilled in your life, the first thing you've got to do is really get super self-aware with what you're feeling, what the majority of thoughts are, what your feelings are. And let me give you some examples.
Okay.
And I say this is stuff that I have to look in on myself. And so if I'm starting to look out in the way that my thoughts are my thoughts of envy, of jealousy, of fear, of not good enough, the killers of the world are envy and judgment. And so are we coming from a place of us versus them, and like, why do they have that? They got lucky. That's your envy, right? Or they're happy and starting to judge them and critiquing. So if you feel yourself in those, what I call those, and I hate to use the word negative, but negative type states of mind and emotions, and you're always feeling unfulfilled or nervous or fear-based, or I can't put it out there, or you're just not happy. That's the first thing, is you've got to become aware of your state of mind, and kind of look around you too, both from your relationships at home to the people you associate with outside of work to the job that you have. If you start looking around and everybody is just ridiculously miserable or angry, or they're caught up in the noise of the news and social media, Republican, Democrat nonsense, and it's all this stuff we do look outside of ourselves so we don't have to look inside of ourselves. If you are looking at all of that and feeling these negative emotions more often than you're feeling courage or you're present, and let me tell you what I mean by present, because not a lot of people, we're either regretting or looking at the past or fearing and planning for the future, if you can't just be here right now and comfortable with you are, and you always have to have a movie or social media, or that's not really living your truth. That's always trying to numb yourself with something else. And it can go extremes from there. But the first thing you can do is really try to get a hold of, and there's processes and things that I walk my clients through to do this, but really get self-aware. And the second thing I would tell you is participate in your own rescue.
Okay.
There's no one's going to come and do this work for you because they've got their own stuff they're dealing with. And so you have to invest in yourself with mentors, coaches, books, whatever your thing is. You've got to invest in yourself to find that true balance in life that you can. I'm here to tell you, and I work hard at this. I mean, there's a reason I don't only do this for a living, because it's important for me, because it is a lot of hard work and life gets in the way. But there is hope. You can have a free life. You can obtain true freedom from your thoughts and the noise around you. Your normal state can be happy, and you don't have to be free and happy. You don't have to compromise your financial security, your success, or protection, but you can achieve meaning and significance in life and have it all. But it takes a lot of work, because society, the human experience, being a human is tough. I mean, it just really is tough. And we all have our own stories in our past and things that we've done and mistakes we've made and things that have been done to us. But you've got to let it go. You've got to come from a place of gratitude, self-love, and respect. And that self-love and respect thing is difficult. Man, I know. And so the first thing you have to do is choose goodness for yourself, invest in your well-being. It has to be the priority. It's not selfish. In order to be there for your business or be there for your family or your significant other, you have to love and respect yourself. And it's so hard to do because people are scared. We all want to be seen, loved, and heard. And this is really foo-foo, because I spent a lot of time in pretty large companies.
Yeah.
And I also do a lot of individual mentoring and just coaching. But, at the end of the day, and this is going to get, now I'm going to get way out there. It goes way back to when we were hunters and gatherers, right?
Okay.
Way back then, if you couldn't get along with the tribe, and this is indigenous societies all over the world, they would kick you out, and that meant life or death. So even in our DNA level, we all want to be loved, seen, and respected by our peers and our communities. But however, that's not the only thing. You've got to be open-minded and willing to get out there, step out there. And chances are that if people or circumstances in your life go away because you're investing in yourself and trying to find your balance and truth in life, and to whether to take that step in entrepreneurship and start your own company or just be a better human being than you were yesterday, the people that go out of your life, chances are you need them out of your life anyway. Yeah. And so I hope that is some self-awareness and invest in yourself. And there's a whole lot of those things can get deep, and there's a lot of trainings and teachings underneath all of those, but no, there is, and the transformation I see in people's life, if I could fast forward a couple of years, and they're like, when they're first starting, they're like, oh, this is all hocus pocus nonsense, and then 2 years from now, their businesses are rocking, their family lives rocking, they're not stressed, they feel free, and they'll come back and say, well, what do I do now? That's when I know I was okay. Now we're winning, right? And so those are just some things to be on the lookout for as you go in your life. But be on the lookout for those, that judgment and envy. Yeah. And that fear, and fear just drives us, and be aware that our social media and news sell fear because that sells advertising. Right. And so just be aware of that. And there's a lot of things that you can do to overcome that as well. So
that's good. That's good. Now, you talk a lot about financial success versus fulfillment. Can they coexist? Fulfillment and success. It feels like we either have to choose to chase our passions and live like paupers, or we have to, we can be wealthy and sell our soul. We hear that so often. And so the question is, can success, whether it's financial, whatever we mark that at, and fulfillment and passion, can they coexist?
I'm here to tell you 100% they can, because I'm living proof of that. But I was also the guy, so that you, Michael, and your audience knows, I was the guy who sold my soul. I was the guy at 36-year-old. It was all about profit, profit, profit at the expense of myself, at the expense of my dignity, at the expense of my value systems. I'm not kidding. During that time of my life, if there's like a list of 100 things not to do, I had checked off like 94 of them. And so, I've lived the life of selling my soul. And even when I decided to leave as a senior partner and equity holder and board member, of leaving that firm, I mean, they gave me so much backlash from emails saying you're an idiot to you'll be making X amount of dollars 3 years from now. And they didn't have a check to write because I wanted my soul back. Wow. But you can definitely have it all. But a lot of folks, success doesn't mean financial abundance. And as long as you to me, success is about, and each human being on earth has different goals and priorities and what really is successful and fulfillment to them. However, if one of those is some sort of financial goal, and by the way, financial goals shouldn't be goals. If you're in business or an entrepreneur, financial should be the results of doing the right things and solving some sort of pain in the marketplace. The financial results will come if you're doing the right things, both in your business and internally. But first of all, you have to define what success means to you. And if part of that, of course, in these societies we live in, you've got to have a roof over your head and food. But there's a study out there, and it's been a few years now, and I think it was MIT, but don't quote me on that. It was probably, this was 5 or 6 years ago when I was starting this process. I think it was MIT or Stanford or one of those great institutions came up with a study of what is the dollar amount that will make you the happiest, where you can go on a vacation. You're not worried about your medical expenses. You're not worried about feeding yourself or your family. You got a roof over your head and you can have some sort of free time. And I think back then it was like $65,000 or $70,000.
Yeah, I remember that study.
Yeah, it was just really fascinating. And dollar for dollar, as that went up, because we become more ambitious, that carrot gets bigger and bigger, and we're constantly chasing this thing that we're never going to catch. It's either perfection or the next big deal, the next big deal, the next big deal. And a recent conference I went to, this gentleman he was out of the University of Texas. He did a study. It was either 100 or 500 people that are worth $20 million or up. And I think most of us would say that's you've done really well financially in your life if you get to that state. Yeah. But the 96% of them, their biggest fear on earth was not having enough money. Wow. And so money should be the result of doing the right things. And a lot of folks don't put any power. Money is also just a tool. We've made it this evil empire thing. It's not. Money is what we make of it. And so it goes back to that there's a mindset around money, and I'm a believer in this too, Michael. And this is an opinion, so this is not some sort of fact or wisdom here. I have very good reason to believe, because I can give either my personal clients or my corporate clients a gazillion tools and the play-by-play list about how to make money. But if you don't have a mindset and the belief that you're worthy to have the money or that you can actually do this, it doesn't matter what I give you, it's not going to be there. And I'm a firm believer, if we took every peso, euro, dollar, British sterling, whatever the currency is, and we divided it up between the entire world, that in 50 years, 5% would have all the money again, because it is a mindset. There's a skill set to it and a way of being. But getting back to your question, can you have it all? Yes. But what does having it all mean to you? Okay. And so if it is money needs to be, again, the result. It doesn't need to be the driving goal, or it needs to be one of your goals. But the first thing is concentrate on yourself, your emotional well-being, your mental health, your mental well-being, your physical well-being, and depending on who you are, your spiritual well-being, so that when you reach this level of financial success, or you shoot for it, regardless of what happens on the money side, you'll still feel fulfilled. You'll still be happy. You'll still be living your truth, because believe it or not, most of your very ambitious mega millionaires and even billionaires, in a former life I represented a couple of billionaires, they're not very happy. And so, there's so many examples around us. Look at these people who've achieved massive amounts of success, and this is a sad one. Yeah. Think about Robin Williams. Yeah. He was top of his game, brilliant, had all the money in the world, beautiful family, success, abundance, but he was absolutely miserable inside, and he ended up hanging himself in his own bedroom.
Right.
And his family had to find him. So imagine that. And Tony Robbins is the one who really pointed that out to me. I was like, man, he is so right about that. But you can have it all, but what does having it all mean? Are you going to be that person? And I love business. I love the game. I love ambition. I'm a very ambitious person. And the reason I do all the work I do for myself is because I can get caught up in that game of it's never enough. And do I really enjoy the successes that I have on a daily basis? Am I really present and grateful for that? Because I know I'm always going to I have huge financial goals because there's some philanthropic and movements that I want to do, from financial education to literacy and and also the other movement about the power of choices that I think could be game changing if we could get out of our own way as human beings.
Yeah.
And so I have big financial goals, and I'm taking actionable steps in all these different companies that I'm involved in to get there. But the reason I do this work is because that will not fulfill me, and I can't take it with me. So you have to define what success means for you. And the answer is yes, you can have it all. There's people that do have it all. There's not many because we get in our own ways. But that's a really long-winded way of saying absolutely you can do this.
Well, I want to extend this a little bit further for just another moment or so. We look at people who are successful, and a lot of them are jerks. A lot of them are people that you look at them and go, how did they lie, cheat, or steal to get there? And then we look at other people who, nose to the grindstone, work their butts off, put everything in. They're passionate about what they do. They love the people around them, and they just can't seem to get ahead. They're always seeming to have to catch up. And then when they've caught up, something happens and they're back where they started. So what would you say to them? Because they're in this, they're trying to do it. They're doing the things you're talking about, and they're just not getting the headwind to get ahead.
So I'll start with the perception of all of those. And there are a lot of people. I'll start with the first group of people you talked about.
Yeah.
There are a lot of people out there who have done it in all the wrong ways.
Right.
And society is full of them. I mean, if you look at history, is full of them too, where they've reached power and money and success. But let me be clear and put it here. If they have truly hurt people along the way of their journey and done it in all the wrong ways and done it from a place of selfishness, greed, and power and us versus them, there's a 99.9% chance those people are miserable. It's not sustainable. No, whether it's a historic empire who did that, suppressed people, or individuals, chances are they're dying inside. They're alone. No one likes them. And when they get to their deathbed, they're going to be eat up regret. So my advice to that is, who the hell cares about those people?
Yeah.
Seriously.
I think that's fair. Yeah.
Yeah. Let them soak in their misery. And when they are on their deathbed and they realize they can't take it all with them, and oh my God, I live with regrets, and they're going to have to, it's going to come to a fruition because it's not sustainable.
Right.
And if you look at the people that we really remember in history, they've either done amazing, amazing things. Buddha, Jesus, Gandhi, Mother Teresa. I mean, all these great, people who have really made a difference in this world. Nelson Mandela. I mean, those are the people we remember because they were service-based mentality. Yeah. Okay. Now let's stop all that and go back to your question about the person who's just rocking it out. They can't get ahead. There's something they're doing. I guess we're talking about professional and financial success, because you said this person they're loving, they're kind, they're happy, but they just can't seem to get ahead out of the rat race. Yeah. It's the first thing is you've got to get out of whatever you're doing. There's something you're doing professionally from a job standpoint that probably needs to be changed. And that is a big, scary, audacious thing, big, hairy goal to do. But you've got to really be self-aware of it, because repeating the same thing over and over and not getting ahead, you have to have the courage and the awareness to make some sort of big change. Do we need to go back and get some sort of education? do we need to shift? Look at our mentality. Are we constantly scared about money or being afraid of money, or think only those people have it? So there's a psychological and emotional mindset around money, and why we're struggling there. We have to do a real big self-assessment. Do we need to pick up my family and move to a place to where maybe I can get ahead? Do I need to do some schooling at night to get a set of skill sets that I need to have? Do I need to cut this particular thing out of my life and refocus? But there's a lot of self-assessment and self-awareness, because believe it or not, we're not running on all cylinders if we feel like we can't get ahead and we can't get money on the table to feed our family. So there's something in the machine that's not working appropriately, and it's going to be different for every human being on earth, right? And so what I would encourage you to do with people that you love and respect, and I gotta be careful how I say this. Usually people surround themselves with people very similar to them.
Yeah.
And so really step out of that and find a mentor, a coach, find someone successful that you really respect and love. And this is going to be tough. Ask for their help and guidance. I mean, ask them what they're doing. What am I doing? What am I doing in my life right now that's not getting me to the place that I want to be? What anchor do I need to cut? Is it an emotional anchor? Is it a mental anchor? Is it is my job holding me back? And chances are, believe it or not, 99% of this is going to be fear.
Yeah.
There's some fear out there that you're staying with what you're doing and how you're doing it because whether it's financial obligations or what other people think, or the community obligations or family obligations, or can I actually go out there and do it? There's so many things that the masses don't know around money, investing, simple blocking and tackling things they can do to get ahead. And we as a society have failed, believe it or not. And I don't want to get too financial literacy and true financial literacy. Yeah. And how the system really works and how to overcome that system. We need to do a better job as a society of that for our middle class, for our poor, for the people who are struggling, like you're saying. And one of my goals, and the reason I have huge financial goals, is part of the Choose Goodness movement, is to give that literacy out there to the masses so they don't have to become billionaires. And I promise you that will not buy you happiness. Right. But at least knowing how to live your life free from the stress that comes with money. And money's intimate. People say it is an extremely intimate thing. It's as intimate as your health. Yeah. And so really investing in yourself, investing in your literacy, investing in your growth, and that can mean a lot of different things. So that's what I would tell those folks who aren't running on all cylinders.
That's really good advice. You've written a book called From Pawn to King, which I think is a cool title. Tell us about it.
Yep, it's about 75% written.
Okay.
So it's not quite to the end. We're already got publishing and all that stuff coming. So From Pawn to King actually is going to have a lot of these tools that I live my life under. And remember, and so going back to your audience, is I came from humble beginnings. Right. I was the first person in my family to graduate from college. Luckily, my mother was not going to let me fail, especially even when I got in my own way with getting into a lot of trouble. And so I came from humble beginnings. I had no real financial literacy. We weren't money people. We were hardworking, middle class, blue collar folks. And so I did it. But Pawn to King is about, it's about everything we've been talking about. These guys like me who get caught up in this rat race of perfectionism and always chasing the next big thing. Well, I have a Mercedes. Now I want a Ferrari. Well, now I have a Ferrari. Now I want a jet. And you're always looking out there for someone else who has more than you do. And you're working 90 hours a week, chasing deadlines. When you're at home, you're thinking about work. When you're at work, you're thinking about home, and you're compromising your values, and it's never going to be enough. And you get caught up in this machine, this absolutely machine of high pressure, deadline. And it doesn't matter. You don't have to be an executive in a big, large corporation or consulting firm. It could be an entrepreneurs who are compromising their whole lives to chase this carrot that even when they get that carrot, it's not ever going to be enough. They're going to want to chase that next carrot. And so it's really all these folks who have, quote, obtained prestige and title or success. They're really pawns in a game. And how do we become true kings of our life instead of thinking we're kings and we go to the country club and live the sticking our chest out and talking about all the things we've had and the conquests we've made. And it's all nonsense because it's all seeking affirmation from folks who don't even really care about us. So from pawn to king is about these individuals, and I'll say us individuals who thought we were kings, but
right.
we were truly miserable and unhappy and compromising all the things that are important to us to chase the next biggest, shiniest object. And how do we gain control of our lives without compromising our financial success or without losing what we've got? But how do we truly give back to humanity, give back to ourselves, give back to our families, and do it in a loving, graceful, gracious way that we believe, and with a lot of courage? How do we take that step out of that noise and nonsense and become the men, women, and humans we're meant to be? So that's what the book's all about. And it's got a lot of my stories in it. It's got a lot of my client stories in it. It's got stories about some of the wealthiest people and some of the poorest people I know, but they're not really poor when you look at them. They're really making great strides in society. And so it's all about that and the tools and systems to really live a king in the way that you want to be. And so that's a long, and it's geared toward men, but I think a lot of women will read it and think, oh, that's my husband, or hey, that's applicable to my life as well.
Yeah.
And so it's really the story of overcoming all this pressure that we put on ourselves.
Yeah.
And really just becoming who we were meant to be.
When do you think that will come out?
I hope sooner than later. It was scheduled to come out right now. And so it just keeps evolving and growing.
Yeah.
And not in a pages standpoint. It's like, oh, we've got to include that in there. So for me, the true answer is sooner than later. I've got to lighten up and let it go because I'm getting caught up in my own perfectionism. You see why I do this for a living, right? Because I really want it to impact people's lives. I don't care about selling 1 million books. If it can just touch one person's life and can make a difference in their life, and I'm putting a lot of pressure on myself. You hear it, right? You hear what I call the Tommy go round, and it's the whole reason the book's been written. But I would guess early next year it will be out. You can go ahead and pre-order it on our website. But I think it's going to be a series of books. I think the second one's going to be participate in your own rescue. The third one, and it's all about, we're going to put one out there about financial tools and things that you can do in a financial mindset. So I think it's going to be a series of books and podcasts and videos. I think it's going to tie into the Choose Goodness movement along with my business coaching and individual mentoring movement as well. So sooner than later, but that's what the book's about. That's
really cool. Now, your business, Choose Goodness, in the movement you're starting, you've partnered with your wife to actually launch this, right?
That's right.
That's really cool.
Yep. And so, believe it or not, through all of the trials and tribulations, we've been overall together now 23 years, and we've been married now almost 17 years. Wow. And so it's been this journey of self-development, and I'm a firm believer your significant other plays just a major part in what you're doing. Yeah. And so we actually have, and I'm getting way out there, another book coming out called The 5 Marriages. It's actually one marriage, but we've been through 5 different marriages and all the trials and tribulations and how do we overcome it. But yeah, our ultimate goal for the Choose Goodness movement, not necessarily my consulting or my mentoring, that's just going to be a piece, is she really wants to reach out to the women out there to really give them hope. And because all of us have to wear so many different masks, from mom and dad masks to professional masks to powerful person masks to can't show weakness masks to whatever communities you're serving. And a lot of us forget to see the sky again. And so she's wrote a journal / self-help / inspirational get to know yourself book so you can see the sky again, called Shine Your Bright. That's actually in publishing as we speak. That'll be out soon. But the ultimate goal for us, for the Choose Goodness movement, because we want it to be education, we want it to be a business accelerator, we want it to be philanthropy, but there's a lot of things we want the Choose Goodness movement to be, but we want to do it together. And so it's a calling for us as a couple, as 2 human beings doing the best we can. And she's been just an oak tree in my life. And trust me, we've gone through so much together. A lot of it's self-imposed.
Yeah.
Let me just be clear. A lot of it's, I'm my own worst enemy. I'm a Picasso screwing up. But it's important for us as a couple to give people hope, as well as you don't have to give up on your relationship. You don't have to give up on your life. You really can have it all. And we work really hard, Michael, to be the best human beings we can. And I'm telling you, even to this day, it's sometimes a very big struggle because life's going to kick you in the face.
Yeah.
And if you work on these things together and you surround yourself with abundant, like-minded people and get rid of the noise and people who are there holding you back, cut all the anchors in your life, there is hope for a better way. And that's, we want to do it together. And we are doing it together. And unfortunately, the truth be told, she's a CFO of a very, very large company.
Wow.
Actually, the largest vinyl and fabric distributor in the United States. And so she has a lot of significant professional demands. But when it comes to living her life and living the life as a wife, or living the life as a friend and a human and as a daughter and just a person, she's kind of a beacon of what I aspire to be. And so it's going to be super important for us to do this together, because we want to take it we want this to be holistic, not just business or personal, but all facets of our lives. And how do we put that together into the best package we can on the very few spins we have around the sun? Life is short. So let's lighten up and have some fun along the way. Right.
Well, you talked about the personal, and I agree with, your spouse is such a significant part of the journey of entrepreneurship, if that's the journey you choose to take.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, for sure.
So let's dive a little bit more into your personal. When I research every episode, I go and dig in all kinds of places. And one of the things you said that stood out to me is that you love experiencing new cultures and good food.
Yes. I do indeed. I love to eat.
Food is a lovely thing. So you've traveled a whole bunch. You've been all over the place. Where are some of your favorite places to go, and what do you love about them?
This is cliche. So my favorite place to go is the next place I'm going to. So I'm a huge, huge, huge traveler. I love to travel both domestically and internationally. And the reason I do that is my true passion in life is seeking new cultures, new ways of thinking, new religious ways of thinking, new political ways of thinking. So the reason I like to travel so much is not only the geography and the history and the beauty of whatever place you go. And there's a lot of us don't travel because we're scared, because it's different. Oh my God, it's different. I can't go there. Or they believe something different than me. And what I have found in my travels is that 99.9% of the world, we all have the same struggles. We all have the same truths. We all want to be seen, heard, and loved. And there's just wonderful people all over the world. So the reason I travel, and I don't have one favorite place that I like to go to. I don't have one favorite. I love the foods. I love to smell the smells. I love to talk to the people. I like to hear their views on life in the world. I also like to hear, based on the stuff around them, what they think about us. But from experiencing new cultures, I'm seriously working on, I came from a very closed-minded society. And just as a little digression here, this is really important for us to realize as humans. Our thoughts and beliefs and our, quote, rights and wrongs are just one big thing of where we were born, what our parents taught us, who we hang around with, what we listen to on the news. And so it really is a narrow thing, and so I'm a seeker of truth in all things. How do I become better, and how do I influence the people? And so through this process of getting out of where I came from and just trying to be the most open-minded person, that's why I travel, not only for the experiences and the fun and, experiencing new wines or new, foods, but really understand the cultures and the thought processes. And what I've came up with is humans are humans all over the world. And so one of the reasons I travel is to get out of my own comfort zone. I also like to be out in the outdoors. And so I like to hike. I like to river raft. I like to do all these things. And that gets me closer to my higher power. And so it's a thing. I guess some of the favorite places I like to go is that next new scary place for me. And so when I say scary place, I'm like, oh my God, they really look and think differently than me. And now I used to run from that. Now I'm like, I got to go there.
Yeah.
This is where I got to go. I got to sit down and have tea or a coffee or a dinner with those folks and really just get to know them. And I think if we all had that open-mindedness and got away from what I think is right and what they think is wrong, I think it would really change the world. And I do it out of self-growth and self-love. And I just love new people and new experiences. And I know that didn't tell you anything. Some of the coolest places I've been to Estonia. That was so different. Russia was really cool. Down in South America, Argentina was fascinating. And so, but what I realized is people are awesome.
Yeah.
They're just really awesome. We just get in our own ways. I mean, we start getting clouded by all the things around us that we surround ourselves with. And so when I travel or experience new cultures and food or new wines or new coffees, it's all about seeing and experiencing something different. And like, gosh, I just didn't know that. And yeah, there's some truth in what they're saying, or even in their government or religions. I'm like, oh, I totally get where they're coming from. And I never thought of it that way. And it's just these ahas of, I don't know it all. And we don't know it all, and our dogmatic way of thinking maybe not the best way of thinking. So that's why I do it.
Before we dive into our rapid fire questions, there are going to be some people that resonate with what you're talking about, and they may want to connect or find you. How can they find or connect with you?
Absolutely. And so you can go, the easiest way is to email me at tommy@choosegoodnessnow.com. Again, that's tommy@choosegoodnessnow.com. Or they can research a little bit more. We're splitting the brands up because Choose Goodness is becoming massive. It's going to be a lot bigger than my wife and I. But right now, you can go on the choosegoodnessnow.com website. It's still mostly about the work that I'm doing, but we're separating that sooner than later. But choosegoodnessnow.com or tommy@choosegoodnessnow.com. Shoot me an email and just let me know what you would like to discuss, and we'll book a time to chat.
We'll be right back with the rapid fire questions. But first, I wanted to tell you a little bit about FreshBooks. It's a really, really cool tool. For you, the listeners of the Jumblethink podcast, FreshBooks is offering a 30-day free trial to give you the opportunity to try out their service. If you're a business owner, you know that invoicing and getting money from clients can sometimes be difficult. FreshBooks is an easy-to-use invoicing software designed to help freelancers and small business owners get organized, save time invoicing, and get paid faster. It's even easy to use. Forbes magazine called FreshBooks incredibly user-friendly. And it even has cool tools like invoice and billing, expense capture and expense tracking, time tracking, estimates and quotes, reports, award-winning customer service, and mobile apps for your iPhone, iPad, and Android devices. To try FreshBooks for free for 30 days, just go to www.gofreshbooks.com/jumblethink. Again, that's www.gofreshbooks.com/jumblethink. Now let's jump into our rapid fire questions with Tommy Breedlove. Let's dive into some rapid fire questions. These are questions we ask every guest on every episode.
Sweet.
What is one tip you would give someone with a big idea or dream and they simply don't know where to start?
Take action. Because what's probably happening to them is they look at this big hairy goal out there and they get overwhelmed, and that scares them, and they're not wanting to do anything. So, Rome wasn't built in a day, and you can't eat an elephant, all at once. And so you've got to start somewhere. You've got to take action. So the thing I would tell them the most is start moving and break it down into tactical, actionable steps. But be careful not to do the silly little things. It's got to be things to get you to your goal and to build the company. So the first thing I would do is move. You've got to execute. You've got to have action, and don't let fear or the size of the goal. I would say to dream big, and all entrepreneurs dream big, but start very small and surround yourself with a group of advisors and mentors outside of your skill set that will hold you accountable. Don't get caught up in the bookkeeping or the administration or checking those ridiculous emails, because it's not going to get you where you got to go.
Yeah.
Take an actionable step to build the company. Start and keep it small. I think we get overwhelmed in these ridiculous to-do lists. Scrap all that crap. Come up with one accomplishment that day that you want to do and it's got to be doable within that day, and accomplish that. And then you can go back to all the other noise. So execute and surround yourself with people that'll hold you accountable.
We live in a crazy world. What is one change you would like to see in the world around you?
I would love to us to start speaking to each other again.
Yeah.
And I would love for us to stop listening to the noise of our media, our politicians, and our religions that are meant to instill fear in us and get us away from the human experience. I would love to see us not coming from fear, but of a place of, hey, that there's goodness in every single person on earth. And they're just a collective of what they've been around, their experiences in life, and come from a place of compassion and empathy for our fellow man, as opposed to what is this person trying to get over me, or how are they trying to screw me, or just living our life on the hamster wheel. I would love to get us to get back to speaking to each other and really coming from a place of we're all the same at the DNA level and at the human level, and we all have our struggles and triumphs and tragedies, and how do we as a civilization, and I'm not talking about Americans, I'm talking about as a civilization, how do we stop all the nonsense and just sit down and talk to each other and maybe hug each other every now and then. I think a hug every now and then would help everybody.
Yeah, for sure. What do you want your legacy to be?
Ooh. I want people to love me for the man I've become, not the man that I was. And I mean this, Michael. I've made so many very, very big mistakes. And so I want my legacy to be he was always trying to be better than he was yesterday, and that he really did. He really strived to serve humanity first and him second. And that he really I've overcome a lot, man, and I don't want to go into all that stuff. And so I just really want people to understand that I work really hard on being a better man than I was yesterday. And I will have lived life if they said, and I hear it a lot now, and you're talking to a guy who worries about karma. When you live 36 years one way and you've lived 7 the other way,
yeah.
It's all about how do I make up for lost time and really serve people, humanity in this world the best way that I can. And I guess my legacy would be, each day he strives to be better than he was yesterday.
Who or what inspires you?
Well, there's a lot of things that inspire me. What inspires me is people who have overcome significant amount of things in their life to make huge differences on this earth. And I've surrounded myself with mentors and people. And what I found is there's a lot of people out there who come from horrific situations of violence and abuse. And unfortunately, I was one of those as well, to become really phenomenal human beings. If you look at what's happening in South Sudan or Syria, imagine what people are overcoming there to do great things and to serve their communities and humanity. And so what inspires me is those folks who overcome either self-imposed huge mistakes, i.e. me, or self-imposed, things that have been done to them, i.e. me, and really just overcome all of it and just keep moving forward and say, you know what, I'm not going to let life get me down. I'm not going to let all this noise and judgment and I screwed up, or this thing was done to me. I'm just going to put that right there, and I'm just going to keep moving forward. And financial success really doesn't inspire me. It's just people who overcome all odds and just really kick ass in life and do it in their way. That super inspires me.
What are you currently reading or watching?
I don't watch TV. I read. I'm a crazy reader. So Play Bigger is the business book that I'm reading right now. It's for entrepreneurs. It's really, they might think it's not for them, but it's about entrepreneurship and how do you become category king. So I'm reading Play Bigger. I'm in a book club with my mom. We're 2 members strong. I always read a classic novel with her, and so I'm reading The Adventures of Huckleberry Finn with her. My wife and I are reading The Grapes of Wrath together, and so I've got 3 books going right now. I usually in my arsenal, I'm reading one biography. I'm getting ready to read Titan, which is the biography of Rockefeller, and I can't wait to read that from what I've heard about it. But I'm always reading usually one business or inspirational book, one classic novel, and one usually biography as well. But those are the 3 I'm reading right now.
I end every episode with this final question. What is one dream you're still wanting to fulfill in your own life?
The reason I do all the work that I do is, even to this day of 7 years of working hard on this and working for other people, if I could just truly fall in love with myself and have, without judgment, without insecurities, and without fear, really having a tremendous amount of self-love and self-respect without, judging myself for what I've done in the past or what I haven't accomplished, or always seeking that next thing. So the reason I do this work, and it's so important to me, is because it's applicable in my life. So if I could truly just fall in love with the man that I am and the man that I want to be, and be with that right now, I will have accomplished so much in my life. And that's as honest as I can be on that one, brother.
Tommy, it's been a lot of fun. Thanks for taking time out to be on the podcast.
Thank you, Michael. What a pleasure. I hope that wasn't too deep and too much. And I know I talked a lot, but you've been an amazing host. Thank you for allowing me to share my story and hopefully give hope to those out there who might not have it at the moment.
Once again, I want to thank today's guest, Tommy Breedlove, for taking time out to share his story and what he's creating over at Choose Goodness. You can check him out at choosegoodnessnow.com. Jumblethink is all about helping you, the listener, chase that big idea and dream and create the world you want to live in. One of the ways we do that is through the podcast. But coming soon, we're launching our first ever idea camp. I'm super excited about it, and it's going to be a lot of fun. Our idea camp is going to be the first one, a virtual idea camp. So no matter where you're at, no matter what your life looks like, you can fit it into your schedule and start moving towards chasing that big idea and dream. Here's what you need to do. Go on over to jumblethink.com and go to the contact page. You'll see a newsletter sign-up form there. Sign up for the newsletter, and you'll be the first to know when our virtual idea camp is available. You'll get some great information about what the idea camp is all about and how it's going to help you in your journey of changing the world through your big idea and dream. Again, swing on over to jumblethink.com/contact and fill out that little newsletter form. All we need is your email, and we'll make sure to let you know when our virtual idea camp goes live. Hey, I want to thank you, the listener, for tuning into today's podcast. I hope it's really encouraged you. If you're new to the Jumblethink podcast, we release new podcasts every Monday and Thursday. I want to make sure that you never miss another episode, or if you're new, that you go back and check out some of our other incredible guests. The easy way to do it is swing on over to jumblethink.com and click the link to iTunes. Or go to your iTunes account, search for Jumblethink, and subscribe to the podcast. You'll be able to check out past episodes, and you'll never miss a new episode every Monday and Thursday. Thanks again for tuning in. Go out there, chase that big idea and dream. Start your journey today. It's never too late. And create something awesome. Change the world around you.